Thank you, everyone. I think we can start now. Okay, thanks, everyone. I think we can start now. Um, I'd like to welcome everyone. This is the Rhythm of Change book launch. This comes in a, I'm going to give from my perspective, it comes from a really outstanding program we've been running for the last 4 years called the World Urban Pavilion, a joint project of the Urban Economy Forum, the Daniels Corporation, and UN Habitat. And we're really excited to be here just to kind of celebrate this and celebrate this amazing book that was just being written, launched by Mitchell Cohen. So, and I've given it a read. It's quite exciting, and it talks a lot about really amazing space that's been revitalized in Toronto called Regent Park. If you want to Google it, Regent Park in Toronto. And we've had the honor to be partnered with the residents there. Actually, we partnered the residents there through a program of the World Urban Pavilion called the Sister Neighborhoods Program, which we partnered them with a group in Mathare informal settlements in Nairobi, as well as young people in Cucuta and in Armenia, in Colombia, as well as indigenous community in northern Ecuador called Otavalo. The Sister Neighborhoods program was focused on sharing between the different, these different communities who have similar challenges, maybe at different scales at times, of marginalization and not being engaged. And so that's really, I think, what the core of the story of Regent Park is how to take these communities which often are left behind and give them a space and a time to move forward. And that involves not only the linking of people, but also the planning of space. And so that's why I'm so excited to have some of my colleagues here who are able to speak more to how revitalization works globally, and then also reflect and lead into the reflections from Mitchell Cohen on specifically how this links to Regent Park. So I'm looking at my schedule here. So unfortunately, Haya, who is to moderate here, is not here at this moment. She's stuck in traffic, I believe. So we're now going to move to. What I'd like to have, the person I'd like to have speaking now is Eduardo Lopez Moreno. He was the former head of research for UN Habitat, now working with the World Urban Pavilion. So Eduardo, over to you. Are you there, Eduardo?
Me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I would like first to say that this book moved us to a fantastic neighborhood that is Regent Park in Toronto. And I can assure you, as you will hear the author soon to speak, and I hope you will read the book, that this is a social, a cultural, a political chronic that will ignite your imagination. This book launch will spark important conversation. Rhythms of Change by Michelle Cohen will open another window, one that will invite you to step inside and explore. This book was written with a style that blended between anthropology, sociology, and poetry. The book whispered secrets between the lines and danced with words that paint vibrant images of this neighborhood and the communities that inhabit there. It is a poetic book that captures the essence of an urban transformation that turned to be one of the major success in the world history. It is not me who says this. It is many experts, it is development agencies, and it is UN Habitat. Freedoms of Change by Michelle Cohen is a compelling story of a lyrical journey that enchants and inspires. This book has the power to change minds and inspire action, especially those that explore social transformation. As a moderator of this book, I feel a real honor, particularly because of the author and the caliber of this speech. I don't have any doubt that this session will really motivate you to have more conversations and to read this book. That is a transformation in which some of the fundamental insights have to do with migration, with justice, with rights, with housing, with placemaking, and with public goods. In other words, with the very same topics that animate the World Urban Forum 12. All starts at home. I would like to say some words about the author. Michel is a poet, is a songwriter, is an activist, and is an urban developer, a multifaceted person that waves his passion for art and social justice, and a person that fought to create an inclusive, beautiful space. I was there, I used to live there, and I know that. An inclusive space that fosters a great sense of community, identity, and sense of belonging. Michel recreated and gave new expression to the soul of the place. I would like to introduce to you Mr. Michel Cohen, President and CEO of the Daniel Corporation. He's going to do an introduction of the book. He will read part of a chapter, and the floor is yours, Michel.
Eduardo, thank you so much for that very kind introduction. And I want to say a very special thank you as well to the entire team at the Urban Economy Forum and the World Urban Pavilion in Regent Park for submitting Rhythms of Change as a candidate for the Urban Library Program at this prestigious forum. It's truly a great honor for me to present the Regent Park story to all of you this morning. Rhythms of Change tells a business story as well as a political story, but at its heart, the book tells a community story. How local residents came together in the mid-1990s to envision a better future, a better quality of life for themselves, their families, and their neighborhood. Now, for most of us at this forum, the concept of urban renewal is nothing new. Over the years, we've all seen or we've read about urban renewal projects that have reflected a very heavy-handed, top-down process directed by planners and politicians. Common practice, in fact, has seen entire neighborhoods bulldozed with local residents, already marginalized, pushed even further to the margins. The Regent Park story turned that practice on its head, putting local voices and local aspirations at the absolute top of the agenda. Rhythms of Change, Reflections on the Regent Park Revitalization, chronicles how that happened, providing for all of us, in fact, a process roadmap that can be emulated in cities around the world. Regent Park, built in the 1940s and 50s, had been conceived with the best of intentions under a garden city planning model. At the time, garden city planning was considered a best-in-class approach to slum clearance. And Regent Park, with 2,083 units on 69 acres, was one of the largest garden city experiments in North America. The premise was very simple. If you take out the public streets, cars are removed from the equation, and kids will be able to play safely within the gardens. Well, the theory was one thing. The reality was devastatingly different. Without eyes on the street, without the ongoing investment required to maintain a state of good repair, the garden city very quickly became an island unto itself, isolated and deeply stigmatized. Although only a short walk from downtown Toronto, Regent Park was light years away in all other respects. The arc of the story, however, began to change when a group of tenacious tenants, fed up with the isolation, fed up with the stigma, fed up with ever deteriorating living conditions, developed a vision and a set of principles that became the foundation upon which the revitalization was built. The most important principle was a right of return. An agreement with the City of Toronto stipulating that residents would move out to make way for demolition, but with a guaranteed right of return to a new home within their community. The second principle was simply to put the public streets back into the grid, reconnecting Regent Park to the rest of the city and to the world beyond. Developing a complete community with a mix of tenures, a mix of incomes and uses was also fundamental to the vision, providing fertile ground upon which the seeds of change could grow. Today, those seeds of change have taken root. With 53 of 69 acres nearing completion, Regent Park is a real-time demonstration of how a challenged inner-city neighborhood can be reimagined and transformed. It is also a place today where diversity is celebrated and where quality of life rivals that of any neighborhood in the world. Rhythms of Change also describes how our company came to be involved in the revitalization. I've had the privilege of leading the Daniels Corporation, a private sector development company, for 40 years. Joining John Daniels' startup company in 1984, a company that has now developed and built just under 40,000 homes. The premise underlying everything that we've done is very simple: that our business can be a platform for progressive social change, delivering positive outcomes for all stakeholders, not just the developer. What a concept. To a great extent, my background developing nonprofit housing cooperatives in the 1970s and early 80s shaped our trajectory as a company. In the course of that work, I met many people and many families living on a precipitous ledge, trying to keep their feet on solid ground, but ever fearful that one day the ground will shift without a safety net to cushion the fall. In 2005, as the City of Toronto was preparing to kickstart the revitalization, residents of Regent Park certainly felt the ground shifting beneath their feet. That uncertainty, the inevitable anxiety that flows from that, became top of mind for all of us at Daniels. At that moment, my partner Martin Blake and I spent several months on the ground in the community, listening, learning, and coming to understand the hopes and the dreams of local residents. Our conclusions were very simple. Firstly, that honoring and respecting local voices would be the most important building block for success. And secondly, that a partnership-based model was the only way to bring those hopes and dreams to life, the only way that something so complex and so textured could be achieved. Rhythms of Change describes how that public-private partnership came to life. It also describes the robust collaboration with local residents that has been fundamental to everything that has been accomplished thus far. Getting from there to here, however, has been far from a walk in the park, with endless challenges along the way, including nothing short of a global economic meltdown in the fall of 2008. And in early 2011, we ran headfirst into a political firestorm when a newly elected mayor here in Toronto fired the housing company's CEO, fired the entire board of directors, leaving no one, absolutely no one, at the partnership table for months. Sadly, there were also many moments when the community was torn apart by the loss of yet another young man to a cycle of violence fueled by guns, gangs, and drugs. Despite everything that we were doing to foster optimism and create opportunities, young people in the neighborhood were still at risk, perhaps even more so because of the disruption and the displacement that the revitalization was causing. Despite all of those challenges, those roadblocks, those obstacles, many lessons have been learned along the way. And my goal with this book is to share as many of those lessons as possible. I also wrote Rhythms of Change to demonstrate what can be achieved under the umbrella of a shared and powerful vision when all sectors come together in common cause. Finally, perhaps most importantly, I hope that everyone reading this book will recognize their unique potential to make a difference, to become an agent of change, and then, like residents of Regent Park, harness that potential to build healthy, sustainable neighborhoods in which everyone is welcome and everyone belongs. Thank you. I'd now like to take a moment, if I could, to read a short excerpt from the book, from Rhythms of Change. This, in fact, is the very first chapter, and it recounts an unforgettable moment in 2006. It was a cold and clear morning in early 2006, the day that demolitions started. David Miller, Mayor of Toronto, sat in the cab of a big machine near the corner of Dundas and Parliament, pulling the levers that would tear a family's home apart. As I watched the big rigs do their damage, one longtime resident, a grandmother, told me with tears in her eyes that her family and their history were being erased. Her words hit me like a wrecking ball. I felt the weight of responsibility to do right by the people who had lived in substandard conditions for decades, isolated from the outside world. Toronto Community Housing had promised residents a right of return, but at that moment, it was just that, a promise, a hope that the authorities would be true to their word and that residents would be able to come home to a new Regent Park. Standing next to me were the true visionaries of the revitalization: Diane McLean, Deborah Deneen, Deanie Peters, Neil Clark, Inez Garcia, Lloyd Pike, Soraya Ibrahim, and several hundred other residents watching as their homes, their memories, and their lives were ripped apart. From that moment, our team was part of a large ensemble, playing a pivotal role, but always listening closely to the tones and the melodies of the other players. There were moments when we had no idea where the music would take us. There were others in which the notes resonated in perfect harmony, reflecting hope, potential, and personal growth. Darker tones often took center stage, reflecting anger, resentment, and a deep sadness for what had been lost. We planted our feet in the center of the process as the community was torn apart, and we were active participants in weaving it back together. The entire city saw the remnants of lives on display as our demolition contractor exposed wires, steel, and the pastel colors of individual dreams, hopes, love, and family. And then, ever so slowly, the city and the world beyond witnessed something very special beginning to emerge. One brick at a time, building by building, block by block, beautiful and messy, important, imperfect, and the subject of great debate. Is revitalization a genuine attempt at redevelopment that respects the people and history of a community, or is it simply gentrification in disguise? Although I am telling this story from my experience and perspective, it is above all a story of remarkable people who recognized the need for change and then, through their will and determination, shaped what that change would be. This is their story, a story of resilience in the face of upheaval and change. But it is also our story, the story of our company, diving into the unknown, connecting and collaborating with local residents and our public sector partner, hand in hand with an ensemble of players from beyond the community, each bringing the best of their love to the composition. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mitchell. That's, again, Regent Park is a really exciting story. I think I won't speak on behalf of the agency's experience, that it's always been challenging to bring together the public and private sector. We talk PPP, we talk about how this is a way forward, but oftentimes the stories, the narratives, the possibilities of that are hard to reach. And what I think we have found, and what I know we have found, is a champion in Mitchell and the Daniels Corporation, partnered with Urban Economy Forum. And also we have to mention, we really have to thank and mention the Government of Canada, Canada Mortgages and Housing Corporation, which funded this program over the last 5 years. So it's been really exciting. I know there's some people, we have some time constraints. So I'd like to call on Raf Toots next to make some comments. Then we'll come back to Eduardo briefly, and then we'll move on to Carlos Moreno if he's here. So Raf, then Laura.
Thank you so much, Doug. And indeed, it's a very moving testimony of a transformation. And I would really recommend everyone to read this book. It is a poetic account of 40 years of transformation that is very difficult to capture. And I would say that this book is among one of the best ways in which such a revitalization is recounted, because you need to feel and see the complexity of this process. It is very complex to get all these pieces together, and the political background and social background are interfering with municipal policy in this regard. And I think the book does a very, very good job in bringing this all very well together. Now, we are UN Habitat, Laura and I, representing what an international agency, how an international agency looks at this urban regeneration, urban revitalization, urban renewal, the different words that are being used for this. And we believe that this example in Regent Park in Toronto is one of the best examples to capture the essence, the methods, the approaches of urban regeneration. And it's a very, very good learning story and learning experience. So anyone who has the possibility to go there to visit or to recommend to other urban practitioners to go there, I would highly recommend to do that, because the World Urban Pavilion, the space that was created, is really at the heart of Regent Park, and you feel the fruits of the regeneration, and you are meeting the beneficiaries and the actors of regeneration while you are in the World Urban Pavilion. Now, why is this so important for us? And it's so important that we have prioritized urban regeneration as one of the outcome areas of UN Habitat strategic plan, because it is one of the methods in urban development that probably has the biggest capacity to touch on such a large number of sustainable development goals at the local level at the same time. Of course, it touches on SDG 11 related to sustainable cities and communities, but it also touches on issues related to water and energy, to gender, to poverty, to equality, and to partnerships. It's a very, very holistic approach, probably one of the most holistic approaches in urban development that one can imagine. What is also very interesting about this approach is that for it to be successful, it has to have a very strong civil society community component and a very strong partnership, public-private partnership component, as Mitchell has already very clearly expressed. And the two have to be so closely interwoven, otherwise you will never be able to have a successful urban regeneration. One of the outcomes of such processes, and also specifically in this case of Regent Park, are higher level ambitions that we have as UN agencies. For instance, to reduce urban sprawl, to maximize land efficiency, to promote mixed use and mixed income, to enhance social equity and to reduce income segregation. Now, to achieve that by design is extremely difficult, and Regent Park Revitalization is one of the cases where all these different aspects I've just mentioned can be demonstrated with impact very concretely in a fairly large scale, in a very complex and large city. The neighborhood has been intensified in terms of value. It has become more walkable, more compact, more connected, and the private and public sectors are working together for the well-being of the community. I would leave it here and hand to my colleague, Laura, who is our head of planning, finance, and economy at Habitat, to go more, because the inclusive communities, thriving cities is one of our flagship programs. And one of the final things I would like to say is this is a true learning case study. This is an experiment where we hope that many cities, many practitioners, many organizations can connect with and learn how urban regeneration can be truly successful.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you very much. So I think it's really very interesting to be able to discuss of this book and of course of the experience that is depicted in the book during this World Urban Forum, which it tells us that everything starts from home. And I think it has been illustrated very visually even how the city is actually built on individual homes and the level of emotional and human experience dimension that we are dealing with as urban, let's say, practitioner and urban agencies, etc. So I'm very happy to be able to talk about this. First of all, the book, I just wanted to say a few things about the book because as Raf have said and others have said, it is rare to find a book that talks about urban transformation in such an engaging way and with such a depth of content from the human to the technical to the procedural to the actors' behaviors, etc. And I think the ability of the book of bringing all these things together mirrors very well in a way what has been the experience and also the outcome in a way of this experience. First of all, I was impressed by the process, of course, and what has come out from the process in very different moments is so strongly informing the choices and the decision with a very honest way, both of talking about it, but also of acting on them during the process itself of the regeneration. The principles that emerged are very interesting and from the community and from the engagement at the very beginning somehow of the process, and mirror in a way very interesting how they mirror also a sort of consensus international community of what is needed for regeneration and urban development in general to work, but they are validated at the actual community and level and become much more significant and much more precise in a way. So the issue of safety, the issue of accessibility, the issue of the pedestrian streets, the imperative of keeping people on the site and finding the solution which are actually working for a very diverse community are all elements that resonate with what we say, but of course give them quite a depth and a reality that is very interesting to look in action. Also, the book brings in the recognition that this is a sort of collective effort. It has a lot of analysis of the personality almost of the institutions that are involved, and I think that is and also of the individuals that are involved, and it is a sort of capacity building journey between across this period of building the understanding across all the actors of the vision and actually finding very concrete responses to that. And finally, just still on the book, I think somebody has been saying it is a sort of playbook for effective regeneration, and I think there are so many pieces of wisdom on city building that can very well make it a textbook for university architects and a number of us involved in this type of work. I don't want to, I mean, I will go on the details of some of this, but as UN Habitat, as Raf has been saying, we are working on urban regeneration as a key priority because we believe it is fundamental that we acknowledge that cities, first of all, don't work necessarily well in all their parts, that there have been past planning mistake on one side, but also the economic transformation and the urbanization process itself has created numerous parts of the city which are not operating at their optimal state, and they are not providing residents with the quality and the urban quality, let's say the access to number of services, opportunity, etc., that they would be entitled to in any perspective as urban resident and citizens. So if we look at the city globally, and we have done, we are doing actually developing an atlas on urban regeneration. The demand and the need for regeneration is huge, going from cities that have outgrown their industrial belt, for instance, downtowns that have the degraded areas of low density that cannot sustain sufficient level of services for the residents, etc. And there is so many lessons that we can lift from this experience for other cities and other context. Of course, this is happening in Canada, and it has an extremely specific context in the city of Toronto. But on the other side, I think the challenge of this project was really the complexity of the community and the difficulty that the community was facing, which are very similar to many cities also across the globe. No? And I think what Doug was saying of this process of twinning or putting communities in contact between each other, it has a lot of value to enhance the capacity actually of the community to engage in these processes as propositive actors in a way. The lesson actually from this type of work that has happened in Regent Park are so very telling for our work on regeneration that we are actually very much interested to build on the work that, for instance, the Urban Pavilion has been doing to document and to keep access possible to this experience for the international community, so that this becomes one of the nodes, let's say, of our discussion on urban regeneration and what we call somehow inclusive urban regeneration. Urban regeneration is happening across the world very, very fast and very, let's say, without so much involvement of the communities, let alone the international organization. No? But it is actually something that requires all of us to keep an eye and exactly building on experience like this that demonstrate that it doesn't need to be a fully speculative experience, that type of action, that it doesn't need to disrespect the community, but can actually build for us and for everybody much more integrated communities and much more, let's say, sustainable, both physical and human sort of spaces in the city. So I would like to just to invite everybody to, first of all, read the book, but also to get interest in urban regeneration in their own communities and in their own cities, participate, because this book, I think, inspires that things can be done differently, and we can, all of us, a different level of responsibility to engage with these processes where they are happening and inject a number of principle and a number of conversation, initiate a number of conversation that are very much needed. And in this forum, there are several other events that discuss about regeneration and the flagship program. And we really are building a network of regeneration agencies, regeneration actors to exchange of these particular experiences and build more and more the capacity across different countries and different situations to be, let's say, to be able to use regeneration as a sustainable development tool, really, which brings us to closer to the achievement of this, the SDG and of the new urban agenda. So I would like to thank the author, the community of Regent Park, incredible journey, and I think it will be very interesting to monitor how this is evolving, because of course urban regeneration is not a fast, it has been a long journey and will continue to be within the market forces and the processes of the city under some type of pressure. So it is also very interesting to look at how we preserve this achievement and we maintain that type of vibrancy going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Laura. Again, thank you, Raf and Laura. I know you have other places to be, but thanks so much. It's been exciting, been an exciting, really, again, interesting reflection on the book and on Mitchell Cohen and on what's happening with Regent Park. I'd like to now pass it to Eduardo to announce the next speaker.
Thank you very much, Doc. And thank you to Laura and Raf that are leaving. Thank you for the UN Habitat presence in this. Wendy Purcell is the next speaker. She's a global thought leader that transforms lives and focus on this transformation from an education research perspective. She's from Harvard Shan School of Public Health, and she works a lot on social equity, the knowledge economy, and sustainable development. She read the book, and I'm sure she's going to make very important reflection, conceptual analysis. She's a thinker, and she's going to talk about identity, sense of belonging, sense of loss. So Wendy, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Eduardo. And yes, I mean, I'm very happy to share some reflections after reading Rhythms of Change. But before I do so, I really would like to thank Mitchell for his leadership and for really curating the stories of the incredible people who were involved in the transformative urban renewal of Regent Park, Toronto. I had the privilege last year actually to meet some of the residents and community organisers involved in the project. And what struck me first was their pride in the struggle and the genuine sense that they were full participants. They were doers, not being done to. And it really spoke to me of the power of with. So that's W-I-T-H, a small word, but a mighty one that conveys true collaboration across different groups with different interests, but with this sense of shared vision. And that vision was a big one. It was to create a home. And I think many of us in this room are probably very lucky enough to know what a home feels like. You know, that sense of belonging, of feeling safe, of feeling fully seen, simply at home. And this project really goes beyond that physical space of home, and it really holds, and the book conveys this, that social an emotional space of home as a concept which really was the driver of change. That embodied sense of home, you know, a truly kind of sensory experience, you know, whether it was the arts or the food or the recreation, there was a real sense of overall well-being designed into the project. And something that kind of really emerged for me as one of the themes was that sense of heritage to new horizons. The book describes, I think, the courage that it took to keep the name Regent Park, which had a kind of stigma attached to it, and actually respect the heritage of the place, and to use that heritage to fuel new horizons of what might be imagined and brought to life, to move actually beyond what is and reimagine together what a healthy urban community might feel like, where everyone can flourish. And I think this showed up in something that the book touches on, which is this right to return, where the current residents would be able to come back to their communities once it was transformed, and they weren't simply casualties of some kind of gentrification project. And I mentioned courage, and I think there was a lot of that needed. There was the courage to kind of explore, dream, discover, and there was also courage to let go of what was, even if what wasn't that great. It was known, and it takes a lot of courage to step out into the unknown, to embrace that uncertainty of the future. And I think none of this incredible positive change would have come without that sense of loss and the courage to face that loss, whether it was, you know, direct or indirect. And I think my final reflection is about people and their growth, the power of kind of formal and informal education. It was great to see the University of Toronto as a partner in there, bringing skills and leadership and helping residents in the community to realise their talents. And the people who were operating in this space were working in the kind of interstitial space. They were connecting people with one another. They were holding uncertainty. They were facilitating sense-making, listening, but really listening. Listening to learn, not listening simply to fix. And I think the residents and the community organisers I met, they were genuine leaders, harnessing their talents as part of this project. I think has been really central to the success to date and ongoing. And so this is really very much, as we've heard, a story of transformative urban renewal at Regent Park, Toronto. And I think it illustrates this power of width, genuine community engagement, driven by hope, courage, the belief in a better future for all. And for me, it illustrated joined up doing, you know, an exemplar of radical collaboration, you know, a project that was centered on creating home in this physical, social, and community dimensions. And I think it shows us how putting kind of social justice, health, and well-being right at the center are really powerful drivers in that pursuit of equality for all agenda as part of the sustainable development agenda. So it was a pleasure to read. It was a pleasure to kind of accompany, even for, you know, a short time, the incredible struggle and victory in many ways of the community assembled. So thank you very much for allowing me to be part of this cohort now talking about this important book. And thank you to Mitchell.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Wendy, for this real, I would say, deep, thoughtful thinking and conceptual understanding of this process and the narrative of the book. It seems that I'm told that the next group is there. I would like to tell you, for those that are there, that this book is available on pre-order via Amazon UK. And I'm going to send right now to, if it's not possible, put it on the screen to dock to the QR code for those that are interested, that can just take it and request for this book. And since we need to close, first of all, I would like to say thank you very much to the Daniels, to Michelle Cohen, for this excellent poetic. I always admire him, his capacity to speak, to present, and to move the audience. And I would like to also to say thank you to you and Habitat colleagues, to Doug, to Ralph, Laura, and of course to Wendy. Thank you very much for your presentations. Thank you for your participation to the audience. We were having really by the minute control of the time, but this technical thing disrupted us, and we did not have time to ask the audience to make some comments and questions as we wanted, and we sincerely apologize for that. Thank you very much to all of you for your presence, and on behalf of the World Urban Pavilion, on behalf of Daniels and everyone, thank you for your participation. See you.
Thanks, everyone. That will conclude this session. Apologies for running over a bit. If you are interested in ordering the book, I do have the QR code here. You can come up to me and I can scan the QR code. And please, we can, if you're interested and you want to give me your card, we can send you out information on the World Urban Pavilion, the Sister Neighborhood Project, and most importantly, as we're here, the wonderful book that Mitchell, Rhythms of Change, that Mitchell has written. Thank you. Bye.